Yo, what's going on? Welcome to the show. It is the Showtime Forum post-game report. Super excited. This is your boy, DeVon Johnson. I'm getting ready to bring my boy Chaez in right now. Let's get it going. I'm super excited. And Chaz has been waiting. We've been talking. Let me get him going. He's muted right now, but I got to unmute my boy. Chaz, you there?
Lake Show, let's go, baby.
Let's go. Let me bring him onto the screen real quick. Hoping everybody enjoyed the game that we saw today. It was a little rough, a little rocky, but I think we brought it on through. And here's my boy Chaz. Good to see my boy tonight. Hoping everybody is feeling excited about the Lakers clinching that #1 seed. And man, I don't know what else we can say, man. Tonight was a night, man, wasn't it? Anthony Davis, of course, doing his thing. Fifth 40-point game of the season. When we needed him, he came in and he did his thing tonight. Chaz, what did you think about tonight's game?
Oh man, AD was aggressive to start the game. He heard all the chatter from the last couple of days, like I hoped he would, and he was aggressive to start. He was 7 of 16 early, 24 points in the first half. He was trending towards getting that 50 burger again, but he, did his thing, scored 42 points, pretty much made Rudy Gobert look like an average NBA player when he's a reigning, maybe not the defensive. Is he the reigning defensive player of the year right now? I'm not sure.
Well, it didn't look like it tonight.
But yeah, not tonight. Not tonight. So with 42 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, a block, and however many shot changes that he had at the rim. I mean, that's the AD that we need to see pretty much every game. I mean, not 42 points worth, but at least getting 34 to 38 points a game. And obviously having LeBron at his side and everybody else making threes and making plays as well is what we're going to need collectively as a group.
Yeah.
But I just thought that AD was aggressive to start the game. And you could tell that he was pretty much the only one he wasn't forcing a shot, but he was definitely looking for a shot with only taking 7 shots last game. I didn't particularly like or care for the energy in the first half collectively as a group. I thought it was just that same Toronto hangover, really the same energy that's been all throughout the whole bubble. But we're so good of a team that we've been getting by realistically. But in that third quarter, Lakers had to step it up, and we went on that 16-2 run and closed it out with a win. That's all you can ask for.
That's all you can ask for, and we got what we needed to get done against the team that we needed to get it done against. We knew that Toronto was going to be a rough game. We even knew the Clipper game coming back, first game, all the hype, even though we did win that game. We knew those 2 games were going to be some tough ones. We dropped one of those out of those 2, but we knew when we got to this Utah that this is one of those games, and I think you made even a point about that, about making this a statement. We need to make a statement in this time. And the Lakers feel like they're starting to come together. Once again, Vogel was playing with rotations tonight, and they were leaning heavily on AD. But when you have an Anthony Davis and a LeBron James, this is what differentiates AD on the Lakers as opposed to him on the Pelicans. On the Pelicans, he really had nobody else to rely on. Even when he had Boogie Cousins, Boogie is not really known to be what we consider a superstar. And being able to run with LeBron James, when LeBron couldn't get it going, AD could rest in the fact that he could do that, and then LeBron could contribute where necessary. And tonight he was just tremendous, man. He played 39 minutes, which is probably where he's going to be for the playoffs. And he had 42 points tonight, 3 steals, 4 assists, 12 rebounds. I don't know what else you could ask for. 12 of 15 from the free throw line, which really, in Anthony Davis terms, is slightly a bad free throw shooting night.
Right.
Generally, he'll only miss 1 or 2 if he's in that double-digit category. But tonight, he did his thing. But let's talk about some of the other contributors tonight. I know there was a lot of conversation about Danny Green getting it going. He had 8 points tonight. He seemed to be a little bit more aggressive, 4 of 7 from the field tonight. Was that enough for Danny Green?
It's a good start. Lakers Twitter, he heard us. Particularly those that were definitely getting on Danny Green for not even scoring a single point the other night against Toronto and playing a whole 19 minutes. But he played well. He played well early. Defensively, he had those active hands. He was getting the steals and deflections and standing in front of his man and making that the correct rotation and the correct pass. I love that he was getting ran off the 3-point line and he still was able to keep his composure and hit a couple floaters because of that's what we're going to need definitely down the stretch. I love Dwight's energy. Dwight having 11 points was a +1, but he had 5 rebounds and a key block as well as a key steal as well. So I love Dwight's energy to start. Dion Waiters was, I would say, this is probably his worst game as a Laker, even though he had a pretty good third quarter, especially with that pick and pop, pick and roll with AD. I love that sequence with having Caruso out on the floor as well with them. Really good lineup overall, but I thought that Dion Waiters just had a few, Dion Waiters moments that it just comes with the territory pretty much. Everybody knows, pretty much what his reputation is. He's going to give you a lot of good, but there's going to be a little bit of bad in there as well. And that showed a little bit today, but that's as expected. Otherwise, he was a +11 in 19 minutes. And I love what J.R. Smith was able to do with, having his first field goal. And, KCP was solid.
Yeah.
KCP has been, I mean, it's arguable that outside of, LeBron and AD, that KCP has probably been the most consistent player all
Yeah.
season, even after that shooting slump that he had early on in the season. So a lot of key contributors. I wish, I didn't see as many plays from Kuz that I would have liked, even without the ball or defensively, but he still had a solid 9 points. Got himself into some foul trouble, so I know that was a huge factor with having 5 fouls, but he was still a +12 overall, and he came in with some good energy as well. So all the contributors, we seem to be able to get on a roll. I'm wondering why Keith was the only player not to play. I wonder if he's having maybe a couple bad practices, if he's not meshing well. I want to know the story behind that. I'd like to see maybe what some of the reporters are able to get on that. I mean, it's glaring when you look at the box score that he's the only player on the Lakers that didn't play. So I'd like to get to the bottom of that. But other than that, I didn't have too much to complain about other than just the energy level in the first half. That has to come up. And I know you're going to kill. I have nothing really particularly good to say about JaVale, so I'm just not going to say nothing. I'm going to leave that to you. What did you think about JaVale tonight,
And
DeVon?
that was my biggest issue, and not just for tonight. My biggest issue with JaVale has really been since we got back into the season restart, Clipper game, of course, Toronto, and tonight. It's not that JaVale can't contribute; he can contribute, but it feels like when the pressure gets turned up and the energy is lacking, it's almost like they're relying on JaVale to be their energy in the first few minutes of the game, or they're trying to get him going. I can't really describe it, but they run a lot of plays through him. Of course, when it comes to doing the high screen or the high pick and roll. But JaVale's just not getting it going. Tonight he had 0 points, and he had literally he had more fouls than he had points, and he had 1 foul. When you look at that kind of stat line and the man played 14 minutes, it just makes you go, okay, so what is the issue?
Man.
And we talked about this via text, but I really think that getting into the playoffs and getting into these tough situations, I really think AD is going to have to be more contributive towards the 5. And to be honest with you, this kind of lends even to the same question I have about Morris, because Morris being in there as opposed to a JaVale and an AD sliding AD to the 5, letting Morris get in there at the 4, it does allow the lane to get opened up. Of course, Morris can hit threes, and is a good defender. I would assume that tonight the Jazz just didn't have the size to warrant needing Morris in there, but there has to be something more to that, because even Quinn Cook got a couple minutes in there tonight, and Morris did not. So
Great point.
maybe, yeah, and maybe it's a lingering injury, or maybe Morris was just like let the other guys get some run, or whatever the case may be tonight. But I guarantee we're going to see him in the next several games as we head into the playoffs. But for whatever reason, JaVale McGee is just not working for me, and he's been up and down throughout the season. But we expect a certain amount of stuff from JaVale. We're expecting him to get fouls. We're expecting him to get beat on a few things, but we're also expecting him to run the pick and roll with LeBron, and being able to get rebounds. And tonight, in the 14 minutes, he had 1 rebound, which is crazy to me, especially when he started the game in first quarter and third quarter. there's just something there that is preventing it. And every time AD came in, they took JaVale out. They put AD at the 5 is when we started seeing some momentum going in the offensive category and defensively. So I'm looking to see what happens. Of course, you said Dwight Howard brought a lot of energy tonight. He's always going to do that. And this is why that argument always comes up between Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, who should start. I still think Howard belongs on the second unit. I think he just works well with those rotation minutes tonight. He had 17. But we have to figure out what we're going to do with that starting lineup and JaVale McGee. Listen, I want to get into a few of these questions because they're already piling up. Al Sanchez just says hello. Good to see you, Al. Anakat Mohan is
What
saying
up?
AD is a monster. JaVale running around doing nothing. We should experiment with changing the starting lineup. If you could, would you change the starting lineup? And if you did, who would you substitute JaVale McGee for?
I would like to, but we can't.
Okay.
It's too late.
It's too late. It's too late.
It's too late.
Okay.
The athletes are creatures of habit, right? And when you get into a flow and there's a way that things are done all year, clearly you can see in our backcourt there's a mismatch with flow, with Rondo and Avery Bradley not being there. The last thing that the Lakers need is a disruption in flow on the post.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand the risk outweighs the reward, in my opinion, with taking JaVale out of the lineup. Would I like to see it just to experiment with it, just to see what it's like now that we've locked up the number 1 seed and we can kind of use these next 5 games for experimentation with lineups and rotations? Sure, absolutely. But as far as, making that change and definitively taking JaVale out of the lineup, no, because when does he play after that, realistically?
That's true. That's true.
And then you still have to have confidence in him in the playoffs. He is a 2-time champion and he is playoff tested. So I'd like to, but ultimately no.
That makes sense. And I forget that. I forget that JaVale has been through his paces in playoff runs and championship runs. So he actually has more experience than a lot of the Lakers who are currently on the roster. And so I do forget that. I just it has been a pain to watch the Lakers struggle when he's in. I'm really hoping he turns it around. Blake St. Clair says, update the score for the lower third, still on the Clippers result. Oh, I am sorry about that. I don't see anything there. Not sure what you're saying there. Yeah, I don't see anything there either. Donovan Bryant kind of cleaned up the 3-point shooting toward the end, but we definitely need more consistency there. Yeah, 3-point shooting tonight was really just atrocious, to be honest to me. I mean, it picked it up. Let me take that back. We did pick it up. AD was really our best one. He shot 50% from the 3-point line, going 4 of 8. We shot 34% again. The issue, once again, seems to be coming in with the timing of it. And I think what you said was so important. Just those slow starts and you're missing those shots, it just takes so much longer when you're missing these open threes to get that momentum going. And people forget that missing open threes can be a momentum killer, especially for someone like LeBron James, who is looking to kick it out. And you saw tonight when they weren't hitting shots, LeBron just took it on himself to just bully himself into the middle, and he had a decent night. Of course, it wasn't one of the best nights. He went 35 minutes and 22 points tonight, but he did have 9 assists. So it picked up towards the end. But man, it would be so good. Some of these shots, man, that we've been seeing the last 2 games, especially tonight, would have been so incredible to be able to see them hit those shots. Because then that lead is just going to be, at a certain point, the cushion is just going to be so great. They can play loose and play free. Mo Gretzky says, why no time for Morris? We did talk about that. I'm almost positive you're going to see more minutes from him.
Hopefully Calgoon, Tanya, Dave, somebody asked that.
Yeah. Something's got to change with that, man, because I'm not sure what's happening with that. But I'm positive that Vogel seems to be in an experimental stage right now, and it feels kind of too close to the playoffs to be experimenting. But he does have new players, DeVon, JR. It really hasn't had time with Morris. No Rondo and no Avery Bradley. So he seems to be in the experimental mode. I'm just really looking to see what is the solidified roster going into the playoffs. Who's going to get a bulk of these minutes?
You're going to have to take out Dudley and Quinn Cook and probably, JR. Looks like JR and Dion are going to – Dion more than JR, but it looks like both of them are going to get solid spots in the rotation. And for this game in particular, the Jazz just turned the ball over. That they were +7 in the turnover margin, and they got more rebounds than us, but they just shot 27% from three overall and 44% from the field. So they just missed shots in that second half. Donovan Mitchell had to go on. I believe he had just as many points as AD with 24 in the first half as well. And our defense picked up in that third quarter, and that's really what brought us home. And man, my 7-footer can make stare down, step back threes and one for 4-point plays. What about yours?
Listen,
That's AD was a monster when he just stared Rudy Gobert down and gave him the Phil Handy special with the between the legs step back 3 and 1. AD been putting in that work with Phil Handy when you saw him do that. So I'm not saying that AD didn't have that move before, but I mean, everybody knows as Laker fans, Phil Handy been working on that with all those guys, especially AD. So it was really good to see him pull that move out of his bag.
Yeah, and do it efficiently, do it at the right time, hit his shots, man. It just looked like every time that he was out of the 8 threes, I can't think of one that didn't look like it had a good chance of going in, which is amazing because on the opposite end, we have LeBron. And I want to talk a little bit about that tonight because he's had 3 games where he's had single-digit first halves, and I'm not totally sure what that is. But even tonight, he was utilizing that long-range 3 for some reason that normally would be a heat check after he's hit a couple, but tonight it just felt like he was just relying on it to see if he even had it. And do you think that LeBron's struggles is going to carry over into the playoffs, or is this just a blip in this regular season ending?
He's ramping up. I'd be curious to know. I'm putting some research for the podcast that you guys tune in, Showtime Forum podcast every Wednesday. But for the podcast tomorrow, I'm gonna be doing some research. I'm curious to know what LeBron is shooting outside the paint in the bubble, including the 3 or 2 scrimmage games that he's played in. So, between those 2 games and then these 3 games so far, his outside shot, it was looking better in the second half of this game. He hit a couple long range ones, a good one to ice the game and really, create that separation down at the late in the fourth quarter. But I believe outside of the paint, you could probably count on one hand how many jump shots he's actually made, in the bubble. So thus far. So is he struggling right now? Yes and no. I think he's finding his way and he's ramping up. And these next 2 games against OKC and Houston, we're going to get regular rotation minutes after these next 2 games. I've always said I think Vogel is really going to take those last 3 games of this 8-game restart with AD and LeBron and really, he's still going to play them, I think, but really rest them and play them less minutes. But these next 2 games are going to be really serious ramp-up games for AD and LeBron, and you want them getting into a good rhythm. AD's clearly in a good rhythm, scoring 42 points, so I'm not worried about him, but LeBron will get his jump shot going.
Oh, looks like we lost him, man. Looks like we lost him. I'm going to go to a couple more of these here. Let's look here. It says, do you think, this is Sean, Sean, I cannot pronounce your last name. I'm going to say Sean M, brother. I'm so sorry about that. Let me see here. Do you think Vogel got robbed of Coach of the Year today? I don't think so. I think, if I'm being honest, I think Nick Nurse got robbed. Frank Vogel has been above and beyond anything that we could ask for as far as a coach. He's been amazing and great. Let me bring Chaez back in here real quick. He's been amazing and great for us. In fact, I know a lot of us had a lot of different wants and desires when it came down to a coach. When we talked about Ty Lue, and there was a whole lot of drama in the beginning of the season when it came to that. Let me bring in Chaez real quick. Chaez, you there? Can you hear me, Chaez?
Sorry for the technical difficulties. I couldn't hear that last question.
Oh, no worries. Well, the question was, do you think Frank Vogel
still
got
having
robbed?
a little technical difficulties, but
okay. Can you hear me right now? He's having troubles hearing me. I'll bring him right back. So I think Frank Vogel has been a tremendous coach. He's been everything that we've needed. Defensive minded, listens to the players, been a player's coach. He handled the turmoil of the front office in that whole season and issue in the beginning of the season. He handled it so well. I think for us, he's been the coach of the year. But to the rest of the league, I'm not sure if they would even consider that, considering that he has LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I think if you told anybody else, hey, you give me those two guys on the roster, I could coach them to number one seed in the West as well. But we all know the way this season started, before we got Anthony Davis, it did not look like it was going to be a good season. The protest outside of Staples Center, we were losing coaches left and right. The whole Kawhi debacle, Magic Johnson leaving the front office, just nothing looked like it was going to be right. Frank Vogel stepped right in, evened the ship. We got Anthony Davis in the trade. He managed that well with getting the young guys out, getting the new guys in, acclimating everybody, and he coached his behind off. But I would say that Nick Nurse would probably have to be my guy. I think Nick Nurse would probably be my coach of the year. Al Sanchez, I thought Waiters was making bad decisions, and he's going to. Ironically, Waiters had 4 turnovers, which matched LeBron James's turnovers. I think the difference is that we know that when LeBron James turns it over, he's thinking about the play a little bit more. When we see Dion Waiters, I think a lot of times we're watching him kind of just make up something in the moment, which he has the ability to do, which is why we love him. He's able to get to the cup and do such amazing things with the ball, and especially handling the rock, which is new for us and having that in the point guard position. But with that, and not knowing his team and getting acclimated and being out for a while, you're starting to see him kind of regress to the mean a little bit. So you're going to see him make some spectacular plays, and you're going to see him have multiple turnovers, just some plays that he just shouldn't make. They wouldn't necessarily be J.R. Smith type mistakes, but they're still mistakes that shouldn't be made, and it's going to happen. It's kind of the give and take that comes with Dion, unfortunately. So let me keep going here. Okay, here. Okay, so Chaz is ready. It says Mitchell cooked us. Let me see here. Come on, hand. Mitchell cooked us. Should we be worried about Westbrook, Harden, and Chris Paul? Once again, we talked about this before. Let me bring in Chaz real quick. We talked about this before. Certain shooters are just going to get their way, and there's really nothing you can really do about that. It's just the way it is, man, and it's unfortunate. Chaz, there you go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. My
Okay,
bad.
excellent.
I'm not sure what
Yeah,
happened, but I got you.
we're all good. The question Anakam Mohan talked about was tonight. Donovan Mitchell had it going. The last game that we played in Toronto, that Kyle Lowry got it going. Once again, the normal issues that we've seen all season long. If there's a really quick guard, they seem to be an issue for the Lakers. She said, should we be worried about Westbrook, Harden, and Chris Paul?
Yes, yes, and yes. And anybody else. Dame, CJ, if they get in, Donovan Mitchell, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, I know you guys hate to hear it, but Pat Beverly, Lou Will, I mean, not having A.V. Bradley on the perimeter, and really relying solely on Caruso, Waiters, KCP, Danny Green, Quinn Cook as your perimeter defenders. I mean, that's our weak spot, and that's pretty much where the West is loaded. The West is loaded at the 1, 2, and 3 spot on the wings. So overall, obviously, it's going to be an issue, but collectively as a group, that's why we have to have great team defense with LeBron and AD, especially AD anchoring the post, as well as making sure everybody's in the right space overall. But that's going to be our Achilles heel more than anything. It's not going to be shooting or interior defense or JaVale McGee or a rotation player. It's going to be definitely perimeter defense. So as you can tell, Donovan Mitchell cooked this in the first, but what happened in the third?
Mm-hmm.
We got after it.
Mm-hmm.
They went on an 8-0 run to start the third quarter. Vogel called an early timeout. I'm not sure what he said. I'm not sure what LeBron and AD said, but I'm sure they all said something, because after that was when we went on I believe a 9-0 run, and it took the lead at 69-71, and we're off and rolling from there. That's when LeBron came out of the game, Dion came in, and Dion and AD and Caruso really put on a good show in that third quarter, especially AD changing and altering shots and really getting off his buckets. So it's all
And what's
about team
crazy,
defense.
it's all about team defense. And what's crazy is, despite how the game looked, we shot a better percentage from the field than them. We shot 50%. They shot 44. We shot better from three. We shot 34%, going 9 of 26. They shot 27%. And then even with like turnovers and fouls, we only had 14 turnovers to their 21. So there were moments, I think, that we were able, like you said, in that third quarter run, to be able to kind of lock some things down and get it back to going again. What we're hoping is that we can keep that going for four quarters. If we can lock down, really keep going. You did talk about perimeter defense, and there really is no way to make up for Avery Bradley. Even when Rondo comes out, he actually would be more of a liability with quick guards like
Right.
Dame, Chris Paul, Harden, Westbrook. So we're not even looking for Rondo to come in and fill that spot. At this point, you have what you have, and you're just going to have to figure out a way to deal with the guards getting their points, but being able to shut down everybody else. As much as Donovan Mitchell was cooking, other people were not. Gobert played 30 plus minutes, only had 16 points. And in a situation like that, where you're looking for a big and a guard to get it going, the Jazz were only able to get their guard going tonight. Joe Ingles, who normally is a three-point sniper and normally hits big shots, didn't get it going tonight. And a lot of that's like what you said, attacking the perimeter, getting out on there. They played great team defense. LeBron spoke about this. He said that communication on defense is the biggest thing, and that's the one part that I think the Lakers are really going to be working on in these practices. I know they had shoot around and the whole nine, but that's not really going to be their emphasis. Their emphasis is going to be on communicating, understanding defensive rotations, which tonight they got blown by on a few. We seem to have a problem with high pick and rolls for some reason because Gobert was getting lobs and we were missing rebounds and the whole nine. But we're going to get that part together. Gerald says, I think
Two,
Vogel.
oh,
Oh, go ahead.
just two quick things. I want you to read whatever you're about to read, but two quick things on that.
Go
Donovan
ahead.
Mitchell cooked this, but how many quarters are in a game, DeVon?
4.
He only cooked us for 2. He only had 9 points in the second half. Okay, 24 points in the first half. As long as he don't get cooked for all 4 quarters, you'll be in good place. Also, nobody's really getting blown out in any of these bubble games. So let's lower our expectations a little bit because these are going to be every win is going to be tough. This is a playoff-like atmosphere. If you've noticed, nobody's getting blown out by 20-plus points, except for really the Pelicans that got blown out by the Clippers. But it still was. They didn't lose by 20-plus. I don't think it was. A decently close game. But this is a really intense bubble atmosphere. So every game is going to be tough. We have OKC and Houston next. I doubt we'll win. If we win both of those games, I doubt that we'll win them by less than 10 points combined. I'll tell you that. They're going to be close. So,
but it's going to be a great testament to the Lakers getting their synergy back, gelling together. If they can, even if they lose those games, if they can lose in a competitive fashion, it's going to be more encouraging to me than discouraging, only because I know that now Vogel's going to be able to kind of scale back minutes a little bit. I know LeBron and AD are still going to run, but you're not going to see AD run 39 minutes for the rest of the regular season. That's not going to happen. So you're probably going to see the minutes scale back a little bit, but it does give an opportunity for the Morrises and the Deons and the Kuzas and things like that to become more aggressive, to find their spacing, to be able to find out how they fit in this rotation. So you're right. This has been, if you've been watching any of the other games, this has been highly entertaining basketball. To be honest, it feels like the playoffs have already started. The way these teams are playing each other, the way the difficulty, or the way the coaches are calling these games. The biggest issue that I have with all of it is the refereeing, and I'm not going to get into that tonight. I'm just going to keep reading here, Gerald. I think Vogel should have gotten more votes towards Coach of the Year. I spoke earlier while we were getting ourselves together. I said that I thought that Vogel is really more of our Coach of the Year. I said, but if you look around the league, I just can't think of a coach that did more with less than Nick Nurse.
I can't fault them for doing it, for voting the way that they voted. I just can't. I had literally no issue with it. I mean, Vogel did great things. I don't take it away from him at all. But the writers and the media are going to say, "Wait, just like Phil Jackson and Kobe and Shaq, you have LeBron and AD." So they're not gonna give you throw you a bone, or take it easy on you, or give you votes because you were number one in the West because you had LeBron and AD. Now,
Mm.
Giannis and the Bucks, that's why Budenholzer got his votes.
Yeah.
Obviously, Nick Nurse, I believe, Woj said that he was literally one vote away from being a three-way tie with Budenholzer and who was second
Donovan.
place?
Billy Donovan.
Oh, right after. Oh my God! To be
OKC.
honest with you, I would have no issue with Billy Donovan getting it by himself. No issue. No issue
Yeah.
whatsoever. You want to know why? Because he got Chris Paul to buy in. Once he
Yeah.
got CP3's buy-in, everything trickled down from there with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Steven Adams already being there. No problem with that whatsoever. But Vogel has done a great job. As far as executive of the year, though, Rob Pelinka's got to get that.
Hands
Hands down.
down. Hands down. Hands down. And I'm not even sure when that actually gets announced, but whoever they announce, I'm gonna do like what Kanye did to Taylor Swift. You can have your moment. But I gotta let you know that Rob
But right
Pelinka
now,
right now,
yeah.
Rob Pelinka is that dude. Especially he slicked his hair back now. He's mafia man now. New Wins Order, good to see you. Great bounce back. Now Vogel got to have a business conversation with JaVale. It's time. Oh, here we go. So this is more of a tag towards me. Jonathan put for Showtime Forum. DJ, you hinted on the overreaction Monday crowd that AD isn't a dog or no shows in the fourth. Yeah, once again, I did bring up that he tends to there has been a conversation about him disappearing in the fourth. Obviously, there's all the media pundits have been like, he just no show, no show, no show. Well, he showed up tonight. He showed up tonight. Now the conversation, I'm bracing everybody. The conversation is going to be, but he showed up against a team that they should have beat, right? They're going now the narrative is going to be he doesn't show up against the tough teams, the Clippers, the Raptors, the Bucks. The truth is that what AD showed tonight is that if he ever decides to turn that on for a consistent basis, and I believe he will, being teamed up with LeBron will unlock that for him. He will become one of the most dominant big men we have ever seen. That's been the one piece of AD's game that most people have held against him is in big moments in the fourth. He seems not to be able to show up. But tonight, he showed up. I know it's just the Jazz, but we needed this game to get us back in the right mentality and in the right place. And it probably meant more for Laker family and the Laker team than it did to anybody else in the league. But for us to come back, bounce back, make a statement, and get active again, I think he showed that he's getting that dog birthed in him. He's not all the way there yet. He's not all the way there yet. We don't. We got to remember, we are a fan base that gives that crown to people who prove it when it matters most. And we've seen it with Kobe, and we've seen it with Shaq, and of course we've seen it with the Showtime Lakers. We need this squad to show us their best when it matters the most. Gerald, now this is gonna be a
The
great
Jazz
comment
are
for
a
you.
playoff team, by the
Go
way.
ahead.
But go ahead. I was just gonna say the Jazz are a playoff team. They're four wins away from being the Toronto Raptors. The Jazz are nobody to sleep on. They're a top four seed in the West. So if they had Bogdanovich, I mean, obviously a lot tougher game. But the Jazz is nothing to sneeze at, obviously.
For real.
So
For real.
if anybody on Twitter or wherever say anything, or even tomorrow on First Take or whatever the case may be, say, oh, it was just the Jazz. The Jazz is nobody to sleep on. Quinn Snyder, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Joe Ingles, Mike Conley.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough squad,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
handled them pretty handily. So,
Yeah.
but go ahead.
Yep.
My bad.
Gerald says, I want to see LeBron take it to the hole more often. He's been settling for a lot of jumpers. We talked about that.
He got to get that thing right.
Got to.
He got to
Got
get that
to.
thing right. We already know he can take it to the hole. So he knows himself he's got to get his jumper right. So that's why he's taking more jumpers in these games, and that you'll see moving forward as well. He
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah. And when you go back and you watch the film, or if you go back and watch the replay of the game, you're going to notice that LeBron's trying to keep the defense honest by hitting these jump shots. Because when they do the high pick and roll, what's preventing him from getting the lobs that we saw so earlier on in the season is that they're going under on the screens. When they go under on the screens and LeBron it doesn't hit that jump shot, what it does is it prevents LeBron from getting the lob over to an AD or a JaVale or a Dwight. And then on the other end, it leaves him now having hit that jump shot. But if he hits the jump shot, they have to go over on the screen, which leaves the big man really one-on-one with the switch. And that's what LeBron is looking for. But if he's not hitting the jump shot, it makes it less likely for him to be able to get that lob or to get that assist. He had 9 tonight, but you better believe if that jump shot was hitting, he probably would have been closer to 12, 13, or 14 assists. Here we go. Dan Marino, let's go. Feels good means a lot. Slightly concerned about everyone else on our roster, not named LeBron or Anthony right now. Energy was bad from everyone else. No one stuck out. Now, tonight, the bench didn't carry us like they did in the last game, but we did have a couple of good players there. Howard had 11 points tonight in 17 minutes. Kuzma had 9, and really didn't do much outside of fouling. And then you had Waiters who had 7. So if you were looking at our bench, who would you want to be that standout star? Is it Kuzma? Is it Waiters? Or is it a Caruso or a Smith? Who would you want to be that one you can always count on?
It's Kuzma. It's Kuzma. It's Kuzma, Kyle, Puma, Kuzma. That's who it's got to be. And he's going to have his ebbs and his flows. I couldn't believe he had 9 points, to be honest. It felt like he gave us almost nothing. But at the same time, he wasn't coming in his normal rotation. He didn't play as me. I mean, I'm not sure how many minutes he played, but overall, I
25.
don't feel like I saw. Yeah, that's not enough. When he scored 25 points in that one game, he had 32 minutes. He averages, in Laker wins, I believe he averages over 30 plus minutes a game. When you only play Kuz as much as you play J.R. Smith, what are you going to expect from the guy? Just realistically. So he still gave us 9 points, and he was in foul trouble. So on to the next one, and let's see if we can, get Kuz back right. But it's that answer is definitively Kuz. I hate Vogel's answer when he said, "Oh, it's going to be, it could be anybody. It could be KCP. It could be Danny Green. It could be no. It's got to be Kuz because if it's not anybody else, then the KCP and Danny Green and Quinn Cook and that's not how they built their career. They're not that third leading guy that's going to help carry a team, especially when you have a superstar off the floor. So by default, it's got to be Kuzma.
Got to be. And we know who LeBron expects to be that number 3 scorer. We know it's Kuzma because when Summer League started and we had AD, it was AD, LeBron, and Kuzma all sitting together. And LeBron ain't bringing nobody out in public like that unless he's putting the weight and responsibility that they can carry with being in that inner circle. So here we go. There's a couple of great comments coming up, and I can't wait to get to them. But Blake Sinclair, Dwight has the better minutes with the first unit. JaVale fits better on the second unit running. Blake and Chaez kind of already spoke to this, but even switching it up this late into the season with all of the roster changes that have already happened just wouldn't be wisdom and probably would do more detriment to that first unit than it would be helping. Of course, if something were to happen injury-wise, then you have Dwight sitting back there and you have Morris who can end up taking in that spot. But as of right now, it makes more sense to keep it the way it is. Don't really care who starts, but finish games with Dwight. How do you like Dwight as a finisher?
Depends on who we play. Depends on the matchup. He'll never finish any games against the Clippers. That's got to be Markieff Morris. We've got to see Markieff Morris at the 4 to allow AD to blossom at the 5 and for Kuz to blossom at the 3 and LeBron handling the ball. And then you can fill that shooter role with either Danny Green or KCP to finish the game. But that lineup has got to be Markieff Morris at the 4 to close the game. It's got to be. I mean, because defensively, that's what he gives you as that versatility, and he gives you that spacing as far as being able to hit the 3 in the long-range shot. Obviously, his shot hasn't been that great in the bubble, but Markieff Morris, in my opinion, in terms of what we saw in that Clipper game, March the 10th, I believe it was, that last Clipper game, Markieff Morris showed that he can have that versatility defensively, which allows Kuz and AD to blossom at the respective positions of the 3 and the 5.
Love it. Love it. So we have a guy in the chat, and this happens every now and again. We have somebody who's clearly not a Lakers fan, but he says Lakers have no bench. AD playing too many minutes. He obviously has not watched how many minutes Kobe played in his career, and he doesn't know what the responsibility comes with being with a championship organization. Minutes don't matter. Championships do. And you play as many minutes as you need to get down that street in Figueroa. And so He says Clippers are greater than the Lakers, and so it makes sense when if you're a Clipper fan, you're used to having stars who don't play a lot of minutes because they don't play a lot of games. You have a Kawhi who'll take 2 or 3 weeks off, or a Paul George who gets hurt at least 3 or 4 times during the season. So it makes sense. But for us Laker fans, we like to battle through injuries, and we know that our superstars like to give us all that they got. Blake St. Clair and
If
AD and Dwight are better defenders. Go ahead. Go ahead and speak to Robert Christensen.
it, I just want to know. I just want to know if the Lakers bench is so bad, then how come LeBron doesn't have a stronger case for MVP? If the West is tougher than the East, and we're number one in the West, and the Lakers have the worst bench in the league, then I mean, look, I'll be honest. I've pretty much said that it's been closer than what it actually is. I've said that maybe you could go tit for tat with the Clippers and the Lakers as far as their bench players. I'll concede the Clippers are definitely deeper than the Lakers, but overall, you have somebody that brings them together. They're greater. What's the saying? The sum of their parts, the
Oh,
parts are
yeah,
greater
greater than the
than.
collective whole.
Yeah, I messed that all the way up. But that's pretty much the Lakers because collectively, with LeBron, with AD, and everybody doing everything that they're supposed to do, collectively as a group, they're better than they should be because obviously they don't have the greatest bench. So that even makes the case for MVP for LeBron that much stronger. So have at it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna skip around to some of these questions, guys. 24K Petty says, "Hey cousins, talking to you and me, Chad. Form familia. Good to see you. Hashtag there." Gerald, we need to keep things the same. Can't change up the flow. I agree with what you just said. He's speaking to what you said, Chaz, about taking JaVale out. Here we go. Annika
Agreed.
Mohan says, I feel our most balanced lineup right now. So take note. This is what she's saying. Our most balanced lineup right now is AC, Dion, Kuz, LeBron, and AD. She said maybe Green or KCP over Dion if they can start hitting their threes. What are your thoughts?
I love it. I love it. I don't know about Dion and LeBron being on the floor at the same time
Mm,
because they both have that playmaking role. And by default, Caruso's not a shooter. I don't know if he's knocked down a single three this entire time in the bubble, quite honestly. Maybe he has, but
yeah, he's
I
knocked down
mean,
a couple,
for the
but
but for the most part, I mean, I find myself saying, Caruso, you got to hit that, clank. So I mean, I know defensively, he came up with that huge steal against the Clippers, and he's made play after play after play, hitting the floor hard. You know, he hit his backside pretty hard trying to take a charge earlier tonight. So I know the guy is all in, missed his sister's wedding, but overall with Dion and LeBron on the lineup, I'd probably have to go with KCP instead of LeBron just for flow purposes. But I was loving that Dion Waiters and Anthony Davis pick and roll, pick and pop, those sequences. I believe AD got 2 easy buckets out of it, and then Dion Waiters they were helping off AD, and as a result, Dion Waiters got to the basket and had an easy lay-in. So I was loving that. But that's not a bad lineup. I would just take out LeBron and maybe insert KCP since your 2 best playmakers are probably Dion and LeBron with Rondo
yeah,
out.
yeah, and split that out. Judah from Periscope says, "Boy, they must have the foul slider turned up on this season." Yeah, the games and the announcers have actually been talking about it since the games have been on ESPN. But the games are actually longer in the bubble than they have been in the regular season or when we were outside the bubble, and a lot of that is just because these fouls that they're calling just doesn't make sense. And there's a couple of moments tonight where it was just like literally, it was like a phantom foul. And it's clear as day, you can see that there was no foul there, but they would call one, and you just couldn't figure it out. I'm really hoping the refs don't cost any team, let alone the Lakers, a game when the playoffs start. I'm really hoping that they up the ante, get some really good veterans in there, more Scott Fosters. I know Scott has some issues as well, but I trust him way more than some of the guys I've been seeing in these games calling these crazy fouls.
I love what Mark Jackson said yesterday when I was watching, I believe, the Bucks and the Rockets. It's a make or miss league, but it's a make or miss call league as well. They're human
Wow.
just like the players. They're human just like the players. So if they miss a call, they need to be held accountable, which is why they have, I think, the last 2-minute report, which came out, I believe, after the Clipper game that showed that LeBron D'd up Kawhi and Paul George, and there was no foul, and that came out as well. But also, moreover than that, these refs are going to make mistakes. They're ramping up just like how LeBron had to get his outside shot right. Scott Foster and the rest of these refs have to get their whistle right as well. So I love what Mark Jackson said, because these refs are, bad calls are going to happen in every game, but you want to be able to mitigate them as much as possible. I mean, we're reviewing everything. We're reviewing hostile acts. I've never heard the word hostile act so much than now in the bubble. I didn't really realize they were reviewing that many hostile acts. Anytime you have like maybe an elbow to the chin or whatever the case may be. I've seen it a few times already. But yeah, I'm not surprised that these games are a lot longer, because we're getting whistle after whistle and call after call. So
Real talk. Real talk. Jonathan says this is the 20th 20-point half for AD, which makes him third behind Kobe's 26 in the year 13, and he had 21 of those in the year 2012 in the last decade. So AD in his
yeah,
first year as a Laker is already putting up some incredible stats, and just it is still crazy to see Kobe's name there, and just him not being able to experience what we're experiencing right now, man. But hopefully this is still motivation for the team. I know it's been some months since he passed away, but he is still in our hearts. Adele says, Adele Del Toro, if you guys don't know, this is the hat that my man is wearing right now, Chaez is wearing. It's by this guy, Adele, who has a question. He goes, question for you guys. Is AD Bron's best and most talented teammate ever over Kyrie and Wade? Thoughts?
I want to say yes, but it's TBD, to be determined, and that is
Mm,
determined by the number of rings that AD is able to get him. He won't get him one, whether it be this year or next year. We'll see.
yeah,
But obviously AD is more talented than D Wade, and I'd give him the edge over Kyrie as well.
yeah.
So the question, the answer, Aldell, yes, but TBD. Right now it's Dwayne Wade. Could easily be Anthony Davis when all is said and done, once he gets him that ring. Got to
Yeah.
get that jewelry, baby.
And one of the biggest differences you're going to see with AD, and it's really hard because he's a big man. You're talking about guards, but Wade, obviously a tremendous player, incredible player, in my opinion, top 50 NBA player of all time for me. I know that's debatable on a whole lot of different levels, and Kyrie is an incredible ball handler. I don't think there's anybody who can get to the cup like Kyrie. Here's the two issues: Kyrie mentally, and I'm talking about just psychologically when it comes to being able to play with LeBron, deal with LeBron, fit well with LeBron. It didn't work. It was so tumultuous for them to even get that chip that they got. Now, Wade and Bron work far better, but Wade doesn't have the versatility of AD, and mainly on the defensive end. What you're getting with AD is a complete offensive package. We saw that with the step back three, doing 4-point plays, able to get to the cup, turnaround fadeaways, all
Right.
that, right? And then he's also a defensive player of the year candidate. And LeBron has never had a teammate that fit both of those categories, plays well with him offensively, and can cover LeBron in his old age defensively. And he hasn't had that. And so I think the biggest
LeBron hasn't had somebody. Sorry, I might, my bad, but he hasn't
no, go
had
ahead.
anybody that leads the team, and he doesn't have anybody that leads the team in everything except for assists. Everything, points,
Everything.
rebounds, blocks, steals, you
Free throw
name it.
percentage.
Anthony Davis lead free throw percentage. That's embarrassing, actually, in my
It
opinion. If
is.
I'm LeBron and Anthony Davis is shooting technicals and you know stuff like that, and I'm not, I don't really like that. But I'll sweep that under the rug. We won't pay too much attention to that one.
So, something is telling me this season LeBron is going to have to make a clutch free throw, and he's going to nail it. And even though his percentage for his career is going to be over, I feel like I'm just feeling it in my bones. It's going to be a defining moment, and so he may have a bad percentage, but I feel like the narrative will shift when he hits the free throws when it matters most. And that's not traditionally his thing. He's been up and down in fourth quarter free throws, especially with 2 minutes left. But I feel like this season is going to be the one. This playoff run is going to be the one where he defines himself. Um, Here we go. Winston Mobile Apps. Our defense does not seem right for some reason. Maybe it's the layoff, and I don't know how you feel about the defense. I mean, for the most part, even though we've lost the game out of these three that we've been back, we've actually kept most of the opposing teams to a lower shooting percentage than what they average. So I don't know if that means anything, but is our defense lacking? Is it the Avery Bradley thing that's causing most of that, or is it just rust?
It's continuity, familiarity, and Avery Bradley, a collection of all three of those things. So when you don't know players' tendencies and you don't know how they like to play all the time, and you're having new players come in like Markieff Morris, who hasn't played a lot, but he's still a new guy. Dion Waiters, brand new guy. J.R. Smith, brand new guy. Both of those guys are in the rotation, and you're trying to communicate and get tendencies on the defensive end. Two out of those three players play on the wing, and that's where
Yeah,
the Lakers are vulnerable the most. So I would say between the continuity and the familiarity, along with having arguably the best perimeter defender at the one spot in the league, and Avery Bradley out, I mean that's going to hurt you. So,
yeah,
and honestly, I know people don't want to hear it, but Rondo being out there to at least take those gambles that he does to
mm,
filter the defense down to the paint and let into the trees of Dwight and AD and JaVale, that's where we're missing Rondo as well. Because even though he may not make the right play all the time and he may miss his rotation and he may gamble a little bit too much, he's going to win some of those gambles. And up here, he's going to be able to have the mentality to filter those guys down to our big guys and to be able to get better stops and have a better collective team defense. So all those are factors into why overall defensively we're just getting cooked on the perimeter.
which actually leads to a couple of these next questions. Blake St. Clair says we should zig when everybody else zags. You were talking about JaVale and Dwight and AD. A Twin Tower basketball can really dominate in the slowed down playoffs. Lakers have the best front court in the NBA. Play to our strength even more now that the backcourt is shallow, to say the least, with Bradley and Rondo, of course, being out. So in this instance, and Blake, thank you for that comment off of YouTube. It does make a lot of sense. When you this Twin Tower basketball, really harkening even back to the last playoffs that Anthony Davis was in with the Pelicans, having Boogie, having him with Rondo running the point, on the offensive end, and lending to what you just said on defensive, where you have a guard like a Rondo who will take some gambles on going for some steals, and then filtering in those players down to the Twin Tower lineup in the inside. So my question would be: is it a good idea, based upon what Blake just said, is it a good idea to zig when everybody else zags, to keep that tremendous front court, that length that really got us to the position that we're at right now, but to keep that length and then really just kind of rely on your role players to kind of filter people back into the middle.
Only in the first three quarters, maybe even only in the first half. Are we talking about playing Dwight and JaVale at the same time?
No, just going with the Twin Tower aspect of a JaVale and an AD, or a Dwight and an AD, always having two pretty much bigs in there during the game.
So our biggest, I'm okay with that, but offensively, we're not the same team, and that allows the help rotation guy to come down and double Anthony Davis a lot faster as well, because you don't have the particular spacing that you would like to have when you have somebody like JaVale or Dwight clogging up the lane. And even if
Right.
they were to space out, that help defender isn't going to commit to those guys, because I'll live with Dwight or JaVale shooting at even a 15-footer for that matter, let alone a three. So I hear them, but at least if you're going to do it only in the first three quarters of the game, when it's fourth quarter and it's winning time, like it's going to be in the bubble, like I said, all these games are close. Best lineup, we've already gone over this.
Yep.
AD, Kuz, LeBron, and then, in my opinion, Markieff Morris and or Danny Green and KCP. So that's the lineup, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the tweet.
That's the tweet. Al Sanchez says, "What about switching Caruso out for KCP in the starting lineup to get more defense on the perimeter.
God, no, no. Caruso is definitely. If Caruso can shoot more than 35% for more than a 10-game stretch from 3-point, I'll consider it at that point. But if
Yeah,
you can't even hit 35% from the outside, there's no way you start. No
yeah,
offense, great
yeah,
defense. He's the GOAT. We know it, but not when you can't shoot more than 35%,
yeah.
from beyond the arc.
Yeah, and KCP is not a defensive liability. I hope I love when he
Not at
plays
all.
defense. Yeah, but KCP knows how to play defense and what he offers offensively, especially when he gets it going. Right, like tonight, he had a tremendous three that just felt so KCP like. He just caught it and shot it. He didn't even think about it, even with the defender trying to run him off. And I mean, it looked like vintage KCP. So yeah, and then the biggest issue is that you need Caruso's energy for that second unit. When that first unit comes off the floor, you need that. You need Caruso for that second unit, and then you can sparse him out throughout the second and third quarters to play with the starting unit. But like for the most part, you need him to carry momentum, get the hustle going when that second unit comes in. Aldell asked this: is it safe to say LeBron is coasting? He's not in zero dark 30 mode yet, right? He looks a bit slow. From everything I'm hearing, LeBron will not be doing zero dark 30 this year because he wants to stay active on social media, of course, for social justice reasons. But is he coasting? Is this more of LeBron just trying
Aldell,
to get
my
himself
brother,
together?
what are you
Here we go.
watching? What are you watching? He just took my man Royce O'Neal baseline and hit him with the up and under with the reverse. You know what I'm saying? He's getting that long range. LeBron isn't coasting, he's ramping up. So just like how you would maybe ramp up when you're getting, your shots off or at a pickup game or whatever, let's say you play 5, 6, 7 pickup games over a few hours, you ramping up those first 2 games. By game 3, 4, 5, you're gonna get that complete lather, and your shot's gonna be wet. And if you're playing or practicing right, and in LeBron's case, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And we're not to the
Yeah,
sprint part yet. It's a marathon still. So we still have to, he's not coasting, but he's ramping up because again, the guy hasn't played competitive basketball in over 142 days before last Thursday. So still got to ramp up. And don't forget, the guy's still 35.
yeah,
So I don't care if you've won 4 MVPs, 3 titles, whatever, all the accolades, open up a school, everything. You still are 35 years old, and you still
period.
have to be able to ramp up and get ready for this long haul of a playoff because now it's looking like Portland is probably, in my opinion, we're probably going to face Portland in the first round. They're
You
playing the
think
most
so?
inspired basketball in the bubble. Oh,
We're gonna
yeah.
catch.
It's
We're
not
gonna
even a
catch the
question.
Grizz, huh?
Absolutely. The Grizz are the Grizz 0-3 thus far in the bubble with losing to the Pelicans tonight? I believe
I,
so.
I I guess so. I guess so. Yeah, they're
There's
definitely
there,
not showing
there's
up.
there's so Portland is definitely. I mean, if it's not Portland, then it might be maybe San Antonio from what it's looking like right now. But overall, I'm
Ooh,
I'm picking Portland to. So let's just put it this way: there's definitely going to be a play-in game or
yeah.
two or three in that for that case. But if is it going to be Portland? Is it going to be San Antonio? I mean, who would you bet on? Would you bet on Dame or Ja Morant? I'm
I,
I'm
I'm I'm
going
I'm
Dame
betting
time.
on. I'm going Dame. I'm going Dame all the way. And you're right. They have been. It was really weird to watch the Memphis Grizzlies tonight and watch them lose. It just felt like that was a game that they really could have won. But even more so, and just kind of speaking towards LeBron and getting things going, we also have to remember that everybody's playing late games that are important, right? So like the Lakers tonight, their game started at 9 p.m. their time. I want people to remind themselves that is not the normal time a LeBron James is playing,
That is
starting a
late
basketball game.
as oh my gosh.
It's
They are
super
starting
late.
the game the same time as a heavyweight title fight. I mean, that's late.
That's mad late. And then if anybody saw the post game interview, the meme that's going around with AD, like LeBron, come on. Look, that night when he got done with doing all the reporter stuff, it was getting close to like 1 o'clock in the morning, and the man hadn't eaten yet. So like you're talking about an entire change of routine. And Chaz, you said this earlier. It's just when you're a creature of habit, now you're creating new habits because you're in a whole different environment, and it's going to show up in weird spaces. Your energy level is going to be off. I know they talk about your circadian rhythms and all that stuff, but your sleeping patterns off, your practice patterns off, and you're not going anywhere. Like you're here, like you're just in the same spot, and we hadn't even
That's
got
the,
to the
that's
playoffs yet.
that's the thing. As fans, just think about it. As fans, we have stuff to do day. We like if you're not an essential worker or whatever the case is, you're probably going to work. You're getting something done. You're running some errands. You may be going to work out or whatever the case may be. And on game day, you're like, all right, man, the Lakers come on at 6 tonight because we're on the West Coast. Imagine if you're LeBron and it's game day and you wake up at 8 anyway because that's just how your body's on a certain time clock and you don't play for another 12, 13 hours. It's a long day. So
Long.
I mean, nobody factors that in. That's a long day
That's a
for sure.
long day, man. I'm gonna read a few of these. I'm just gonna speed through these real quick. Should the Lakers lose to the Rockets on purpose with respect to the matchups and stuff? I guess Frank Vogel
Ooh.
mentioned about it. I think if there's any team out of the next few games that we need to win, it's against the Rockets. To me, it's more of a mental check. It's also good practice, or it's good run to find out what it will be like running against a team that has no bigs, but they run much faster than your old behind in your old roster. How do you adjust to that? How do you slow them down? I think that's a game that you really need to lock down. I don't know how you feel about the Rockets and how important that game is.
Man, the best team in the bubble is Portland so far. 1A is Houston
Mm,
with beating the Mavs and then beating the Bucks. You can actually make it Houston because they actually are undefeated, and Portland lost that game to Boston yesterday. But I don't want to see the Rockets in the first round. I'm praying. I tweeted this out yesterday. I am praying that they get hot enough to make it up to the 3 seed or slow down and stay at 6. I do not want them in that 4 or 5 spot because they
no.
will come out of the first round. And if they hit that 4 or 5 spot, that means we have to see them. I would love for the Clippers to have to see them. I know I sound like a homer by saying this, but I don't give a damn. I don't want to see the Rockets in the second round. Not because I'm scared of them at all, but in a 7-game series with 2 former MVPs, actually, anything can happen. So
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
thing like Giannis saw yesterday. I get the point. Let them win, so maybe they get up to the 3 seed, but I think they're going to catch Denver anyway. Denver had a really nice win. Michael Porter Jr. put up his career high 37 points today. Very
Yeah.
proud of that kid, especially with the way that he's battled back through injuries and ups and downs his whole young career thus far. But I'm hoping that the Rockets slide up to 3 or make it down to 6 because if they get in that 4 or 5 spot, they're definitely coming out of the first round. They're playing some of the best basketball outside of them in Portland, 2 best teams playing the best basketball so far. And can't forget about Toronto, even though, you know, they beat us the other night. Toronto's playing really good ball as well.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Okay, there's so many comments, man. I'm gonna breeze through these. Um, oh
Yeah,
man,
like
I'm missing them.
fire off like 3 or 4. I won't even respond. Just fire off 3 or 4.
Okay. AD can dominate whenever he wants. He was just being conservative against the Raptors and trying to get others involved. This is Ankat Mohan. She also says so many media personnel said Lakers would be 5 or 6 seed. And Skip Bayless is going to come out with the AD narrative tomorrow. Absolutely. We don't care what he says. How important? No, here we go. I've almost given up that Green is going to be the consistent player that we need him to be. And that's hard. That's hard. Um, does Rondo get his minutes back in the playoffs over Bubble Cheese when he comes back? Well, if Dion plays the way he played tonight, and he regresses to that mean, that you're going to probably see Rondo get more minutes than what we anticipated the last
Rondo will
couple of
get more
games.
minutes for sure.
Yeah,
If Dion plays the way that he played tonight, and the same way that he played actually against Toronto, then yeah,
yep,
Rondo's gonna, and I'll be okay with that. To be honest,
I am. I'm fine with
I
that.
hate to say it, but
James Michael, Lakers Twitter going crazy with all the receipts. Save some for the playoff show.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
I'm
got
not
all the
even
drafts. We got all the
all of them.
drafts.
All of them, all of them, all of them. I think we'll see our defense, our backcourt defensive problems coming up against CP3. Then we will know. I'm not sure if it was supposed to have more, but we're going to see it. We're going to see it in general because Avery Bradley is not here, and I love
Ooh.
AC,
Oh, what a great
but
point. Who said that?
Winston Mobile Labs.
Winston. Hey, man, great point. Shea Gildress and CP3 are about to run Caruso, KCP, and Danny Green ragged. I'm just
Yeah,
being honest.
yeah.
Now, hopefully LeBron and AD are going to be able to offset that. We haven't lost to OKC all year, but they've torched us on the perimeter, especially Shea.
Oh my
So
gosh,
he's
yeah,
done great work. Great young player.
yeah. Um, yep, yep, yep. Yeah, so this is all the other comments. So listen, guys, we've been on. I can't believe how long we've been on tonight. I love it. I
How
love
long have
it.
we been
But
on tonight? We
we're at an hour and 6 minutes so far. Hour and 6 minutes. I love it. I love it. And
appreciate
the
the
chat
love,
is still
y'all.
alive.
Appreciate the
Yeah, they
love.
still alive. We're gonna have to just do a special one before the playoffs where maybe we don't even have a game. We just hop on and we chop it up and maybe bring in some of these people who have been commenting. Maybe we bring them
Yeah.
online. So listen, we have OKC that's coming up on Wednesday. That game will be happening at that's an early game actually. From what I'm looking at, I believe that game's going to be. Is that a 2:30 game? Is that a 2:30 game Pacific Standard
I
Time?
I I believe it's a three o'clock game. I believe it's a 3 o'clock game.
Oh, 3:30. Yeah.
3:30, 3:30 game on ESPN. If you're in LA, it's blacked out. So hopefully you got Spectrum, so that way you don't have to watch it on the Spectrum Sportsnet app.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I get to watch all the games, luckily, and get to see James Worthy do give us the worthy clap after the win. So it's all good,
Yeah,
baby.
man. Yeah, so we're looking forward to that. That's going to be a game. So we have Oklahoma City and then of course Houston. That's happening on the very next night. So that's going to be crazy on that back to back Oklahoma City and then
TNT
Houston. So
game. TNT game
TNT.
on Thursday. That's gonna be lit.
Yeah, this Wednesday is the last ESPN game. The last three regular season or four regular season games apparently are going to be on TNT. Of course, that could change, I guess, at any moment. But for the most part, the Lakers are looking good. The biggest takeaways from tonight, of course, is watching AD turn into the AD that we know, the 40-20, the 50 burger, that guy. He turned into that tonight. And then, of course, the Lakers clinching the number one seed. And this is unprecedented for us in this last 7 years, is that not only are we the number one seed, and we've clinched that, but we're also going to the playoffs. And I don't want us to diminish that accomplishment after riding through so many, really not even ups and downs, just downs, all the way through from Ryan Kelly to Luau Dang to Timothy Mozgov. We had so many things we had to endure, and we're finally going to be in the playoffs. And so I want us to just make sure that as we get ready and we see our Lakers try to figure things out, that we don't lose sight that this team has brought us back to the playoffs, and that is worth celebrating alone. I know we're Laker family, we're Laker Nation, and we care about championships. But when you've had a drought as long as we've had, you don't necessarily celebrate the pina colada. You first have to enjoy that you got some water after that drought. So we're just going to enjoy the fact that we're able to drink again, and then we're going to chase the really good stuff in the cup and get that ring again. So listen, man, I'm
Seven
excited about
years. 7 years, 3
7 years.
months, 2 weeks, and 6 days
Man,
to the day that Dwight got thrown out in custom cup check, and we got eliminated by the San Antonio Spurs in a sweep. It's been 7 years since that day,
what's
and
funny, when was our last championship?
last championship was 2010. It'll
20.
be 10 years. It'll be 10 years, I believe, 2 months and maybe 2 weeks or something like that. But it's been not almost a decade. It's been over a decade. So we starving over
Over.
here.
We starving. We starving. But listen, I think this is the year. I believe this is the year. So make sure you guys do the normal thing, man. Hop into the players' comment sections on their IG, their Twitter, and if they have a Facebook, hop into that comment section. Give them the spirit bomb, man. Give them positive energy. Let them know how much you appreciate them. Get their minds right because we have a couple of games coming up that's going to be important, and we want to embarrass the other squad. So feed them. the positive energy. Chaz, I thank you for coming on with me again tonight, man. You know, I always have a blast when you jump in, man. Anything you want to say to Laker Nation about podcasts coming up, anything that you got cooking?
Oh, me and Chris, we recording tomorrow. We recapping everything from this win over Utah. We'll be dropping that on Wednesday, and then obviously some clips following up. I got the post game with you, I believe, on Wednesday and Thursday, so I'm gonna be hyped for that, obviously. And yeah, follow me on Twitter at Chaez Pearson, and go get some merch from Javier Golden Knight, aka, and your boy Aldel Del Toro. Can't beat LA. I got on my 3PT. Go get one. Got some fresh merch. That's my dog. And Laker Nation, we see you. We on the way to number 17. Let's keep it going.
17. Of course, you can always follow us on Twitter, Showtime Forum. Most of you guys already do that. You can also visit ShowtimeForum.com. We have a new writer who's doing tremendous work. So if you want to see even some of the writing about this game, you can go there. And until Wednesday, I will check y'all later. Peace.